Buddhist.
All right. We are finally well and truly back after various summer shenanigans, some one shots, some travels. We are back with the Heroes of Queensboro. We left our party in a very interesting place. Uh, there is a massive portal forming underneath the predominantly fairy neighborhood of Little Sylvain. A massive portal, far dwarfing the size and scope of any previous portal between fairy and the human realm. It is on the verge of fully opening, which will be an unprecedented metaphysical and political event, which will throw the city into upheaval. Could even potentially restart the war from 1500 years ago. To try and head this off, our party of heroes has decided to try and summon the Summer King, the fractured Fey monarch who was thought dead 1500 years ago, but like our own Auric, has instead found himself semi reincarnated into this present age in the frame of the human known as Roland. However, where Auric had some magical outside assistance that made his own regenesis possible, Roland did not have that. Instead, his reawakening has been, well, troublesome to say the least. He's been largely a sort of tortured ghost, not quite fully human or fey, flitting throughout the city, alternatingly picking fights with Kingsguard and anti-Fey forces, fighting in fight clubs, or just generally hiding himself away. So, our party descended beneath the Raven Palace, took the metaphysical seal of the Raven King to use its power to summon the Summer King. Along the way, some interesting things happened. The Raven Palace was corrupted with strange, baleful white fire, something to follow up on. Also, Cyrus's primary weapon, Ill Omen, the morphing blades, absorbed a little too much too often energy and has formed a sentience, a personality, and a humanoid persona of a creepy cute little girl known as Lily. Although, much like Janet, she is neither a girl nor a person, and is in fact still largely swords.
Yep.
Um, Swords, birds, girl, person, object, thing. It's complicated. So, we pick up. Cyrus has just left one of the safe houses where Mort has been staying with Sana and Alex, sort of coming and going. Had this very interesting conversation about where little magical swords come from. And finally, we are back. So, Auric had some interest in visiting with the Blackthorns to find out some more about this summoning ritual, to look into some more into his own history and memories. Lexi wants to check in on Luz. So, who wants to go first? What's on the agenda?
I go.
Sure.
Sure. And I'm bringing Stultus with me.
Of course.
Yes,
Of course.
Stultus, whose presence will be a little confusing since
Oh, the hat of disguise we found down there. That's his now.
all right. What does Stultus's humanoid form look like?
Oh God.
Awkward.
Awkward
So
and beefy.
I kind of feel like since Auric has kind of a Mister Rogers vibe in his appearance, what would be another sort of equivalent figure for Stultus to be an awkward version of?
Mr. T.
I was gonna say Andre the Giant, but Mr. T is that much better.
Oh my goodness. Are you going to introduce him as your cousin?
Yes.
All right. Um,
So he has the look of Mr. T, but with the uh Mannerisms
mannerisms
of Andre the
of
Giant.
Andre the Giant. Does he wear gold chains?
He does now.
Well, who knows how this is going to turn out?
And he doesn't say I pity the fool, but he says that's dumb.
Yeah, that
Foolish.
tracks.
Yeah.
I don't think Stultus understands what a catchphrase is.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just something he just says it a lot. He doesn't know it's a catchphrase. Just his general reaction.
Yep. Um, this is wild. So you have Stultus with you, and I'm trying to remember. You picked up Stultus while you were in Fairy, right?
While I was dead.
Yes.
Has Stultus met Vela?
She was there when I came back.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was there. She was there with us.
All right. So you're heading off to the Blackthorn Academy?
Yep.
All right. I think we'll probably call this the next morning. Because I think, Cyrus, you went like right away to take Lily. So we'll call this after a long rest and you've had time to recuperate and kind of sleep some of this off.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the agenda? Where are you going at the academy?
Auric is going to have an awkward conversation with Vela about the room we don't want to speak about in the Raven Palace.
Yeah, the war crimes room.
Yeah.
The Blackthorn war crimes room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's remember it's got that endowed chair position on the door.
So I'll give you a lot of options on just sort of background info here. We can call this insight. We can call this history or arcana. This is just sort of your vibe of like how the modern Blackthorns think of this era and kind of the things that went on.
Probably depends on which ones you talk
Yeah,
to.
that sounds probably like more history than anything.
Well, you spent a lot of time there too, though, so this could
Yeah.
just be a read of actual people. But
Right.
whichever one makes sense for you.
What's your highest roll?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it history.
Okay.
Ooh, a 13.
All right, on a 13. So the Blackthorns aren't the Kingsguard, but
That's a very big but.
you remember a lot of like defenses and alarms. Like you still know when you show up, like special spells go off. You have essentially been added to like the approved guest list. But like the whole time you are on Blackthorn grounds, they know you're there. Someone is aware of where you are.
The wards don't like you.
Yeah. So the Blackthorns have kind of a mixed array of responses. The
Oh,
the sort of the sort of range is not, it's not the whole range of options. They start at most like a little maybe left of center of like, yeah, maybe things were a little too extreme then. A lot of people kind of hit dead center on like, it was a dangerous time, unfortunate things happened, but parenthetical, they might have been necessary at the time. But we don't do that anymore. That's where a large block of them are.
But for science.
But you also know that there are other factions who are not even going to say that.
Mhm.
There's definitely a place where the Blackthorns and the Kingsguard overlap just a smidge. Because this is sort of their foundational myth. Like, the Blackthorn rose to power and prominence through this war between humans and the Fae. Their whole legacy is built on arcane means to equip humanity to defend itself from alien and outside threats. Yeah, you know this going in. So at
Right.
least that can help temper kind of who you talk to and how.
Yeah.
You know how to be smart about it.
Well, yes.
And you've got Vela, and you trust her more than,
Well, and honestly, I was thinking that it was going to be an awkward conversation with Vela.
yeah.
I mean, you know for
Right.
sure Vela on this topic. I mean, she's been dating a Fae for like a year
Right.
now. She's definitely on the more progressive end of things. It's just that the progressive end is not very deep.
Right. I guess I should ask. I mean, obviously the war crimes room was a shock, but it sounds like this is something that is semi public knowledge. At least that bad things happened, not necessarily what the bad things were.
You know that there is a sort of general knowledge. You'd have to do a little digging to find out how much specific stuff they know. Your mind flits back to some highly specific tomes that you found in one of your early visits, maybe your earliest visits, that were like very detailed explanations of how to fight and kill fairies.
Mhm. Yeah. Trying to think how Oric would start this conversation.
Yeah. Awkwardly.
Awkwardly, yes. Bela,
What do you know?
how much do you know about where little Faye come from?
She arches an eyebrow
No.
and says, "Are you coming on to me right now?"
No.
So you know that I'm not normal.
Define normal.
Yeah.
What part do you mean is not normal?
So Faye like Stultus, they come back. They echo.
Yes.
Some of them, some of us, I guess I count as us, remember things better than others.
Right.
Are humans like that?
Are you asking if humans reincarnate?
Maybe. Or even if there's just like ancestral memory, ancestral personality, whatever you would call it.
I think this gets a little bit into the metaphysical and theological. There's been some arcane studies on this, but unfortunately, the only when you start thinking about how to test things like this, it starts to lead people to, you know, obsidian towers on top of mountains cackling while they, you know, summon dark spirits. I don't know. Why are you interested?
We were in sort of a magical extra space. I don't know what to call it. You're the educated one, not me. And we encountered some. I turned to look at Sultus. Unsettling echoes. And I guess I just need a reassurance that you're you and not him from a millennium ago.
She gives you a weird look and has to like try to parse out what you're aiming for here. And she says, "Are you asking if I'm the direct reincarnation of the Blackthorn?"
I guess.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Most
And you
people,
know this is weird for me, right?
yeah, most people don't have as tangible of an experience of this as you do.
Okay. All I know is me, so I don't know what's normal and what's not.
I mean, I think that there's some. I've heard of spells that like can put you in a new body, but they're like instantaneous, not, you know. Yeah, I don't think I am. I don't know how I would prove it. Most people don't, you know, have two personalities to tangibly reconcile inside their head.
Okay. I can handle that. I guess I just needed to hear that.
I mean, I can see if anyone's researching anything, but yeah, not as far as I'm aware.
Okay. It might be good if he stayed in the past.
He was an interesting person in an interesting time. That's probably as much as we need to think about him today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I guess that reminds me. Do you have any like brain bleach spells for Stultus so that he can stop thinking about things that he doesn't need to think about?
um,
I'm mostly joking, Stultus.
he gives you a look, which is a little odd because I mean Stultus has been physically transfigured like twice on a fundamental level, three times on a fundamental level in the last like 2 years, and now he's
He's
like
been through it.
behind. Yeah, he's behind a new illusory visage, and so there's definitely some disorientation when you look at him. He is still sort of looming up above you, but not quite with that. Not so much from you, but specifically the part of his sort of new self that was infused from Lady Marta made him substantially taller. Like borderline humanoids aren't supposed to be this tall. Um, and it sort of comes with an unsettling, ominous presence that is an echo of Lord Taurus, sort of resonating through. Even behind the hat of disguise, even though he looks more sort of standard size, just big, there is still some of that fearsomeness that the hat can't disguise. And so he is sort of like looming up and over the conversation. Yeah, he says he actually gets very introspective for a second. And it's a little weird because, you know, being Dragonborn, you're used to reading emotional context from a draconian face. But even then, there's just not as much range, emotive range. It tends to favor like big emotions. And so the more sort of malleable humanoid face that Stoltz is wearing looks very contemplative and a touch sad for a second. And he's really thinking about this, and he says, there are things that I would wish to forget, but I should not forget them.
Fair.
He sort of 1,000-yard stares out the window.
Your ancestor broke my cousin.
I think you broke a lot of things.
Yeah.
How much in detail are you going to tell her?
Probably not much.
You don't want to completely traumatize her.
Just things that made me want to make sure she wasn't him is probably all she needs to know.
Well, and here's two questions I would ask. Where are you having this conversation?
In private.
Okay. And are you actually like, you've kind of danced around like war crimes room a phrase you've used. Are you clarifying like what and where that is, even if you don't go into detail?
Yeah, I think probably. Maybe not intentionally, but in trying to find the words, it kind of slips out.
Mm-hmm. Stultus sits on the edge of a piece of furniture, and is just sort of looking at his human hands. And the furniture like creaks ominously for a second as he sits on it, but he doesn't notice. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss with Vela, or anything else you'd like to do on the campus as a whole?
Well, in slightly less depressing direction, we should probably talk about the mechanics of summoning spells.
Summoning what? She asks.
I think she's largely up to date on this.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, remember, you all had to tell her that Auric was dead.
It's true. We did.
Now, I think that I'll have to go back. I feel like you managed to somehow let her know before they let her know, which is the only reason things didn't burn down. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's got an idea of what you all are doing and how. So yeah, she can pull out some resources.
Because my original thought was just to go full force of personality, summon him by my power in his name, and someone said that was a bad idea.
But how graceful.
She thinks about it for a second and she says, well, okay, it's not a terrible idea, depending on what you're trying to do.
Call him up so I can call him the drama queen.
There's a very good chance that you specifically, could use that effect plus your own innate magic to initiate that kind of contact, and that this figure would respond. But that is the most wide open and personal kind of summoning possible.
Right.
You will be setting off fireworks in the air of both of your faces that say like BFFs forever underneath it. Like imagine like very cutesy chibi anime versions of your faces pressed together.
I'm not seeing any downsides.
Of course he's not.
So the question is, what parts of this ritual do you want to tighten up?
Uh, can we not advertise it to the whole world? That's probably the most important part.
So something to sort of hide this ritual happening.
Yeah.
She says, we can probably look into that. And what I'll do here is we'll just call this a good old research check. Go into the library like in the days of lore.
Man.
So I'll let you decide if this is Arcana or Investigation. Either way, you're going to roll with advantage.
Oh, it's got to be Arcana. And not just because I'm better at that. Hello, natural 20. So that's a
Very
25.
nice.
All right. Well, in that case, you're going to get two elements here. You are going to be able to modulate sort of how loud it is in terms of how identifiable it is. You're also going to be able to modulate sort of how impactful it is on nearby entities. Essentially, the wider open you leave this, the easier this is going to be to do. So as you research, the idea of this ritual sort of comes to mind. Basically, you're going to set up in some sort of location. You're going to set up this ritual. You're going to use the ritual to channel basically what you said. You're going to use the Seal of the Raven King to stamp your identity onto the spell and send it out to find Roland. So you can make it impossible to tell. Sorry, what I was going to say is basically you're going to be rolling checks to see if the spell works each turn. The more complex the ritual, the harder the check is, but the more protected you are from different things that can happen.
Right. Like other people answering.
Yes. So each turn, things will happen as long as the ritual is running that you all will have to kind of figure out what to do with. And so setting these other parameters will make the check higher, but also reduce the risk of bad things happening.
Right. Well, as long as the ritual doesn't like burn up the seal, we can just keep going until it works. Or until it burns me up.
Yeah. Don't tell Vela that.
I am fire. Alright. I think those are the big things that I wanted to do.
So I'm trying to work out exactly the math of this, and I reserve the right to play with it.
Yes.
My thought is that the sort of wide open summoning would be a DC 15 Arcana check. That's if you just did it wide open. That's going to let everybody know you're there. So we're going to call it a +5 DC to hide your identities. So that puts it at a DC 20.
No pressure.
The more you sort of tighten up the things that can go wrong, that higher the check will go again. But the less likely it is that, like, you know, a bunch of elementals are going to appear and tear you to shreds.
Right. If it gets too high, I might need somebody to help me with the ritual because I only got a +5.
Well, and I was going to say, and potentially you all could invest in things that lower the DC.
Right.
Right.
And also, you've got other people around. Vela could potentially help out. If she is sort of free and not doing something else, she could probably give you advantage.
Mm-hmm.
You could also potentially seek out significant items of importance to the Summer King, or locations. You could also go the other way, so that would lower your DC. You could go the other way and find things that are restrictive or repelling, which might help prevent other things from showing up. It might weaken him in case he comes in swinging, but it's going to raise the DC again.
Right. All right. So things to talk to
Is
the
it
about and figure out.
what's the is it a single skill check we're making? Sorry, I missed that. Or is it does it vary based on what part of the ritual we're in?
I think it's going to take you at least 3 checks. Three successful checks will summon him.
But are they always like,
All Arcana.
yeah.
I think for the purposes of this, they probably are. But that being said, there's almost no way that this isn't going to cause something to happen. And Auric will definitely.
Throw an intimidate check in there.
Yeah, you and Lexi won't be standing around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, because I've actually got an Arcana of +7.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's possible you can kind of get in here as well.
yeah.
Lexi does not have any plus or minus, thankfully, to her Arcana, but that means that she's just gonna stand there with her weapon at the ready.
Yes.
So yeah, there will be some different levers to pull and adjust for this. So that gives you at least how to do that. So, you all have options to sort of chase after some of these other things. You still have a pile of artifacts that you need to sort of do something with. I guess you don't have to, but
But we want to.
I'll say I think didn't we basically say like you filled up the rest of your bags of holding?
We probably have.
Oh no, you didn't fill it up, but there was a substantial amount in there. I'm thinking of my other group that raided a treasury room and literally like scooped coins into their bags of holding.
Until it was full.
Yes.
We were pretty strong.
Yeah. So let's see. We got that. Sorry.
I'll say. So you might be thinking about what location you would like to choose.
In front of the portal as it's opening.
Well, I mean, that could be risky, but at the same time, Little Sylvain is the kind of area that Roland is very attached to. So that would be one of those things that would make it more likely he would appear, but also could potentially make him stronger when he shows up.
Right. We're just wanting to have a friendly chat. Call him a drama queen.
So what sort of location are y'all thinking of?
If we're talking about having actually having a conversation with him, then neutral territory would probably be ideal.
What counts as neutral?
Good question.
Would lose count as neutral?
No, I don't think Luz likes him.
Okay.
So this might be
So
a good role for someone to do. If someone wanted to do history or investigation, and we could call this kind of, this is all sort of taking place over a couple of days,
Right.
because you all, you made one roll for this, but you all probably spent like a couple of afternoons of research on this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can do an investigation.
All right. So this is probably a montage of like, oh, is this another Nat 20? Oric just made a fit.
No, I just have a plus 11 to
Okay.
investigation, so it's a
Jeez.
25.
I just saw Joe make a face and was like, something wild just happened.
Skill monkey.
Expertise, baby.
Oof.
Skill monkey.
So yeah, we see sort of alternating this montage of like Cyrus at his computer, basically doing like uh, Moogle map searches, um, looking at locations around the city, historical locations, areas of importance. We see clips of him like video chatting with with Name, good old Name.
Alex.
Nope,
What is was
Jace.
Jace? Yeah.
Like I just looked at it and then I forgot. Maybe Gimbal gets in the mix. Um, so yeah, we see a little bit of contact, and then sort of House Hunter style, Cyrus like riding around town, going to these places and scoping them out. And you come up with a pretty good list. If you're looking for, we'll start with the negative places. If you want a place that is going to make it harder to summon, but easier to constrain him, the Raven Palace is powerfully against him. Blackthorn Academy, powerfully against him.
Right.
Lose, very much against him. All three of those are going to have very sort of binding effects. Neutral ground, there are some battlefields, like historically significant battlefields on the outskirts of town, where a lot of not just conflict happened, but specifically like magically infused conflict, where both Bran and the Summer King's magic are like intertwined. So that might be a possibility. If you wanted to go sort of way out in left field, you could potentially see if one of the religious groups in town might facilitate a location that is neutral. Specifically thinking of like the spiritualists or the pathers, who don't necessarily have as much of a dog in the fight. Solinus might be seen as a little aggressive.
Yeah.
They are borderline like human affiliated. So spiritualists or pathers might be able to sort of come up with neutral ground. Little Sylvain is going to be sort of very positively in his favor. It's going to make him easy to summon but difficult to contain. There are other sort of thin places in town. The warehouse, where the Weirwood had their portal, would be a place that there's a lot of ambient fey energy. Little Sylvain, the warehouse. Oh, also, weirdly, you've seen this a couple times. There is a lake in one of the city parks where, for some reason, something weird happened, and there's a lot of background fey magic still in the air. Um, you remember hearing something weird happened there about a year ago.
Mhm.
And as you sort of investigated, you find telltale signs that it left a mark here that might be significant for Roland. So you've kind of got a whole array of options there. But the place you choose will have the biggest effect on the mechanics and on the tone that you set.
Right. What about the Tamarans?
Yeah. They would also potentially be able to facilitate a neutral location.
Might be a bit friendlier than the Solonists.
Well,
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah, the Tamarans, the Pathers, or the Spiritualists all might be able to offer you sort of sanctified ground that is neither human nor fey aligned
Right.
from an arcane perspective. What I'll probably do is sort of type up all this math for you all, and you can sort of theory craft it outside of session.
Yeah, good.
Narratively, what else are you all interested in doing? Or are there other elements of the ritual you'd like to be able to mess with?
Well, I know beyond the ritual, we also had the Cyrus mentioned the lock.
Yeah.
Right.
As I delve deep into notes from ancient times of
Yes.
what is in the bag.
Yeah, so I don't know if we could consider a swap with a Blackthorn for. I don't know if any of the scrolls we picked up are high enough level to be of interest to them, but I know we also picked up a couple spell books.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I wasn't sure if any Blackthorn might be willing to do a. Would be interested in trading a spell book for opening the rest of the bag.
Yeah. Do y'all want to try and find one who might be able to do that?
Sure.
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to do a couple of checks just to kind of see how this goes. One of you can give me an insight check. Auric would have the option to make it with advantage, but
Okay.
someone else might still be the better choice.
So I've got a +4, so
That's what I have. So
I'm just a one. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'm
so
gonna do it.
yeah, I was gonna say with advantage, you're the better option.
Unambiguously the best option.
Yeah.
Well, how's a 13?
Or you know,
13.
the dice could hate you.
So with the
Better than the natural
13,
one I got.
That's true.
I'm going to call this a mixed success to borrow
Okay.
some non D&D terminology. So what that means is, you know, there are people who can open this. You know that there are people who are trustworthy to let them know that you have something like this. You know that there are people who would want the things that you have. You're a little ambiguous who exactly falls where in that Venn diagram of the three categories.
Bela! Any help?
Um, I'm gonna have Vela make a check. Unfortunately, Vela is not quite as helpful here as she could be,
Right.
in part just because of her personality. This is not something Vela worries about a lot. Vela has a +1 wisdom, nothing in insight. She will also roll with advantage, though. Her first roll is a 1. Her second roll is a 4.
So her response is basically a shrug.
At least 2 of these questions that you're concerned about, Vela isn't interested in. Like, not for her anyway. She's not had to think necessarily about, like, who can she trust with this sort of outside secret, because she's just such a blunt instrument personality. Like, she's very like, you can take me or leave me. She's not in sort of the political games here. She also has a mentality of like, if you don't do what I say, I'm just going to light you on fire. So even the question of trust, like, people do things for her because of who she is and her position and her power, and she just doesn't have to think about a lot of this.
Sounds about right.
I will say this. So, basically, you have a list of names. Like, you could contact this person, or this person. I'll say, with Vela's help, you at least eliminate one person. You end up with a list. You have 2 people, both of whom can definitely open it, of unknown trustability level. That being said, you do know the Blackthorns are not the only game in town. If you need to backdoor your way into a fairy artifact, there are at least a couple of people who might also have a lead on that.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think if there's a way to convince them to open it and not open it, you know? Open the lock, but leave it closed. You can trust me. Don't look at the thingy, just take the scroll and leave.
Yeah, so just some folks to think about. Gimbal is maybe not quite as powerful, but you also know that Gimbal's loyalty can be bought. And Gimbal charges for that loyalty, but does not resell it. So if Gimbal is bought, he stays bought. There's also B, who this sort of sketchiness seems right up his alley.
Yeah.
He's not the most trustworthy, but he is himself not part of the official circles. Which brings me to Lady Bryn, who almost definitely has the resources to open it, but might have real questions about why you have the personal storage device of a recently deceased Dragon Lord of the Fae.
Don't ask questions. Just take the spell book.
We found it on the side of the road.
We promise.
Yeah, B and Gimbal are probably our best bet. I'm not sure how willing I am to trust B, even though he hasn't really done anything to us. I feel like he leaks secrets like a sieve.
Mm.
Was B the magic shop owner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't feel like he's given me any reason to think that about him, but I just think that about him.
Appropriate. I finished my coloring page. It says Balaam's ass.
Are you stealing them from the children's church bags?
No, this came, I wish. This came in like a subscription box. And so there were a
Uh,
couple of different ones on it's not full card stock, but it's like
Thick paper.
thicker paper.
Oh,
Yep.
Speaking of weirdly hot NPC art generated, I have a lot of distressing um, art um, of B as well.
oh. What do you guys think? Can we trust B to do this?
I don't know.
Right. Cyrus is happy to reach out to Gimbal.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe
We,
maybe we start with Gimbal since Gimbal's got that relationship
Yeah.
and loyalty to Cyrus.
All right. I will not do Gimbal's voice because I set it at a really unfortunate register and it destroys me every time.
yeah.
So you reach out to Gimbal in the traditional way. A cup of long expired yogurt with a selection of special wood chips mixed into the bottom, left on her windowsill to summon one of his servants. Let's continue on our list of like most distressing urban undead. I think we've had a raccoon. I think we've
Yes.
had a squirrel.
We got a possum.
What would? I think that it is. Yeah. The you put this out the first night, and the next night there is a at your window, and there is a gray fox. And at first you're like, oh, wow, that's the least disturbing one yet. And then it like takes a step into the light and you realize it used to be orange.
Mm.
It it almost has a desiccated quality to it. You don't know how this thing died, but it is haunting. But possessed with Gimbal's magic and animated by his spirit, it moves with something, a facsimile of the grace it had in life. It climbs in and hops up onto like the edge of your couch and sort of pretends to clean its paws for a moment, even though you realize it has no tongue. And Gimbal's voice echoes out. So how can I help you tonight?
I've we've got something belonging to a Fey Lord that we need opened, no questions asked.
Give me a persuasion check.
23.
Y'all's rolls are on fire tonight for the most part. Y'all, you've been coming in hot when you need it.
Yeah.
The fox barely stops to think about it, and Gimble's voice comes out. No questions. No questions is easy. Making sure no one else finds out, that's the expensive part. And they're not always the same. Open bag, no one finds out, 50,000 gold marks.
Looking.
I think you all got 25,000 out of it at some other point. And you also have a lot of ancient coins and relics.
Yeah, but I thought according to my records, I thought we'd spent most of that off when we went shopping last time.
Yeah, I think we did. Spend
Well, you
most-
just raided the remaining treasury of the Raven Palace before you came back out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't gone shopping since we
So we don't have that.
went back in.
So it's certainly unusual stuff. You probably can't just like take it to. I mean, you could. You could take it to B and just be like, "Hey, will you turn this into cash for us?" And he would. The cut would be disgusting.
Right.
But there are some other options where you might be able to make that happen.
Yeah. I've got a note about an archivist that I think maybe works with Cyrus's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Might be able to
Archivist
take some of it.
Allenson.
Yep.
Fun fact: that NPC is older than your characters. He is one of the OG Crown of Cold Iron NPCs.
Not very many of those.
Yep, I think it was him and Davis and Avery. That might be it. Those might be the only.
NPC.
Well,
Yeah.
because the others started as PCs.
Right. Right.
Bryn, Leon, Roland, and two you all have never met, I think. Yeah.
I think Cyrus will, like, just for the sake of negotiating, what's it worth if we owe you one?
Give me an intelligence check with advantage. Man, y'all are just killing it. What is
Both
with these
were
hot
19s.
dice?
Both were 19s.
Nice.
You have not gotten below a 20 tonight.
No, Joe got a 13.
No. I mean,
He has not
Cyrus.
Uh,
yeah.
Cyrus has not gotten below it. Okay.
And even Joe has pretty consistently gotten some. Well, not consistently. You got a nat 20 on the most important check, I should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know a couple of things. For the most part, Gimbal does not trade in favors.
Okay.
He thinks that this is. We would use the phrase bougie. Like, he thinks that that's sort of an outdated Fey practice. The same thing that basically thought he wasn't that important. Because it's been a while since we've introduced him. Gimbal
Yeah.
is essentially an urban trash spirit.
Okay.
Like, you know, he is intimately tied to the rubbish of the back alley is sort of his domain.
He's like a not quite as grumpy Oscar the Grouch.
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Um, and he has sort of adapted himself. He isn't fully aligned with the Neon Court, but he certainly has some sympathetic ties, both in the emotional and magical sense. So he really has transformed his own identity here, which is super weird for a fairy. Like, it's more common for fairies who spend time in Queensborough, but even then, it's pretty rare. Um, so you know that element of it. You also know you've been a good customer. Gimbal might take this deal just for you. But the last thing you know is that an open ended deal like this with the Fae is outrageously scary.
Sure.
Um, you don't have to pay him like right this second.
Yeah.
You could find yourself turned into an undead raccoon or something. Oh, my watch is going to make all the weird noises in the world.
Okay. All right. Well, Cyrus will, I think, let Gimbal know that they'll need to they'll need to acquire the coin, but he'll be in touch if they decide to go that route.
The fox quits grooming. It's quits pretending to groom itself, and nods and slips back out the window, leaving only an awful, just awful smell in your apartment.
Cyrus is used to this. He's got the good Lysol and air fresheners, Febreze.
I think at this point he's probably even like gone like off into like there's probably like smudge sticks and like stuff that like ordinarily Cyrus would be like this is not, but like just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, let's sage this place just for safekeeping.
Um, he may not be willing to trade in favors, but if slash when I get my kingdom back, I'll have a whole treasury.
Well, that's true. If the government lets you get your kingdom back.
I'll just say the political implications are certainly fascinating.
Yeah.
There is actually a very old, like maybe 30 years old now. I think it's Stephen Lawhead. Wrote this wild book where he wrote this like 5 volume, like 700, 900 page books, 5 volumes of this crazy epic Arthurian retelling from like Merlin as a child of Atlantis all the way through the whole saga. But then he wrote a sequel, and the sequel was a guy realizing in like then present day England that he is the reincarnation of King Arthur, and basically like uh it was a whole wild thing, but the politics of it were wild. I am worried I would be distressed to find out how it mapped onto British politics. All right, so you know you can get the bag opened if you cash out some of your relics. So you also still have some options with the ritual. You could call in more help. You could find things that will make it easier to summon him. And those sorts of things, if you expend the resources to get them, will just make the ritual easier.
Mhm. All right. 6 month long quest through the Feywild to find his favorite teddy bear.
And go. Um, but yeah, so that's an option. You'd have to make some checks, kind of figure out where you should head. What are some of your most likely sources? Um, what do we want to do from sort of Lexi's side of things?
Um, uh, I think Lexi wants to try and do some. Let's see. Gotta find my notebook. Handy dandy notebook. Um, well, Lexi obviously wants to check in with Luz and see how things are going. Um, she is let's see. She's wanting to find out more about Caleb. Um, despite the fact that he tried to murder her. And I'm just making notes here. And I think she's still in her ever-present quest to figure out the vision she's having and Lou himself. And, now that she's kind of figured out that, oh, you're not as dead as I think you are. You're just an immortal being. Cool. You know, I
Yeah.
think Lexi's thought process would be like, okay, so if you're not dead, then can you help me for Pete's sakes?
Um,
If you know something, can you actually help me with this?
so I'm half tempted to steal something from Blades in the Dark here. Finding Lou is like a major endeavor,
Yeah.
but we can start looking towards it.
Okay.
So as you sort of go back and check out, Lou seems to be doing fine. Um, this is not one of the longer trips where you all have been gone. You were
Right.
you were just, even though for us it's been 5 months that we've been beneath the Raven Palace and in assorted adventures.
Yeah.
For you all, it's only really been like a week,
Yeah.
and that's only even because Auric got offed and we had to step
Had to go
out for a
find
minute
them.
and get him back.
Yeah.
So everything is running relatively smoothly. Um, would you? I think Craig has suggested, at least temporarily, hiring someone to replace Caleb until you can find him.
Yeah.
Because especially with you kind of being gone more often,
Yeah.
um,
Woody's pretty much working full time now.
yeah. Woody, who is sort of a rare sight, is present all the time.
Yeah.
And even then, him and Craig are struggling.
Yeah.
Caleb just did a lot of the little things,
Yeah.
bussing all the tables, doing the dishes, taking the trash, getting orders. Like, who would be interesting to hire as a temporary?
Oh man. Does Sana speak enough English?
Yeah. Sana has been basically doing Duolingo English.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so Sana is fluent in Common now. Um, yeah, I think that would be one of the more interesting people to do it. Um, I think it was a weird combination of like Alex probably facilitated it.
Yeah.
Like he was in the bar griping and complaining because Sana, like he and Sana just fight tooth and nail.
Hmm.
Um, they just have that very like fractious sibling energy. Um, and basically he saw an opportunity, or they saw an opportunity to get Sana out of the safe house, and so now Sana is your third. Um, and the basics are not that different from what she knew 1,500 years ago. Um, you occasionally catch her speaking about it as if it's an old timey tavern. Um,
That's just part of the charm.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and Lexi's also kind of learned that, you know,
Lose is an old timey
Lou's
tavern.
is a pretty damn old tavern.
I mean, actually, that's 100% true. Sauna,
Sana remembers Lou's
yeah,
from
you
the
find out
last
Sauna
time.
100% was here like 1,500 years ago.
Oh God.
um,
Sana's gonna
and
be like, oh, if you move that brick, you can find the secret opening to the
yeah,
basement.
Sauna remembers when it was a brewery and sort of common house back in the day. Um, it was a lot closer to the edge of town than it is now.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so Sauna has sort of settled in, um, and is low key using a little bit of magic to sort of help herself as she goes about her work. Um, I think she's probably introduced as like probably Cyrus's cousin. Would
Yeah.
that would that be the right vibe?
Close enough.
Um, Probably not a sibling, but like
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, she is sort of settled in. Um, Ironically, Alex still appears at Lou's occasionally, even though they were complaining about getting Sana out of the safe house. Um, there's maybe a dynamic there to unpack at some point. Um,
I
so,
mean, Alex cares. They just don't like to show it.
so yeah, Lou's is plugging along. Uh, how would you want to start hunting down Lou? Because you've got some different avenues available to you.
Oh man.
So just to remind you of some like big touch points around Lou.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Now that you've sort of broken through this memory altering charm that
Mm-hmm.
Lou apparently left on you,
Mm-hmm.
you have found Lou in historical documents,
Okay. Yeah.
in even specifically like images of the establishment Lou's and whatever preceded it. Um, you have found him in these images, so you
Right.
might be able to track down if he's using some kind of identity now. You might also be
Mm-hmm.
able to find him
Mm-hmm.
um, just through sort of traditional like PI sort of investigation.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking of Jace or Gimbal even to kind of
Hmm.
do some. nose to the ground, kind of.
So that's one thread you've got.
Hmm.
There's also this sort of magical and spiritual connection that you have directly with Lou.
Right.
You're you're pretty well certain that Lou is something to do not just with hero light in general, but with your power in particular.
Right.
It is all tied together that you have this power, the kind you have, the amount you have, your role, your stewardship of this place, your ownership of the bar, all of that is sort of tangled up together.
Hmm.
So there's something there that you might be able to use magical means.
Do some meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that would probably be like my first step. And
yeah.
then, either if it was unsuccessful or I ran out of time to really get deep into it because something else happened, that's when I would probably pass the buck off to somebody else. But
Well, and one more piece,
yeah.
because I think you mentioned it last time. It's been
Okay.
a minute, but I think you mentioned it last time. Lou was one of, I believe, four figures at the creation of Hero Light. It
Okay.
was the Morrigan.
Right.
It was an angel. Uh, it was an ancient king, and it was Lou.
Right.
You have loose connections to two of those figures because Mort is probably going to have a pretty good idea of what was happening there.
Right.
And you have started to piece together that there is some connection of Hero Light and this angelic figure and Solonism.
Right.
And so you've got a potential connection there too.
Uh-huh.
So it's a big project, but you can kind of you've got the corner pieces.
Right. Yeah. So Solonism probably can get me more info, probably towards the angel. At
Yeah.
least that's the direction I would think. And then Lou, of course, the Morrigan. I was gonna say, is Lou the Morrigan? Or not Lou.
Wild twist.
Mort. Mort.
Yeah. So Mort would potentially have information that the Morrigan has.
Right.
I mean, you could try and contact the Morrigan directly, but I
Mhm.
think some part of your instinct screams like that's a bad idea.
Bad idea.
She is a being whose attention you do not want any more than necessary.
Right. Right.
All right. So do you want to start with meditation?
Sure.
All
Yes.
right. You also, which might be relevant, while Cyrus was gathering these sort of raven fragments throughout the Raven Palace, you were collecting some of this baleful light,
Yeah.
which might have some purpose and potential as well. So, do you want to start with this meditation?
Sorry, hold on. I'm accidentally adding things. Sitting here, got the document underneath the Zoom call and tried to move it so I could find my cursor and
And
instead started
suddenly,
typing things. I was like, and I'm not even typing good things, I'm just typing random letters. Okay, so repeat what you said about me starting to try and meditate. Is that what you were saying?
yeah.
I
So
got myself distracted.
yeah. So that's probably a good place to start for
Yeah.
tonight.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I feel like you're supposed to have more skills.
What do you mean?
Just feels like you don't have a lot of proficiencies.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
probably not.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Nope. You definitely. Hey, look at all that stuff. Yep. Uh, New proficiency: animal handling, intimidation, nature, or survival.
Nature, animal handling, or survival,
Or intimidation.
or intimidation. Okay. Hmm. I'm honestly thinking survival.
All right. Yeah, it's one of the Tasha's optional features.
Okay.
Barbarians picked up some extra proficiencies.
Ah,
Because I was just looking at it, and you had 4 proficiencies, and I was like, that just seems like nothing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll actually use survival for your role here.
Okay.
It's a little off kilter. I think that normally we would probably roll with religion or arcana,
Mhm.
but there's something about this that resonates with you. You know that you're accessing some kind of spiritual reality, but not in like this metaphysical, intangible kind of way. It comes to you in this very visceral sense, with an emphasis on sense.
Mhm.
You feel part as you slip into this meditative state. You feel part of this totemic connection. This bond you have with Hero Light, and you feel an oddity in it. It's almost like it's taking an unfamiliar shape. You feel as if you are encountering the edge of some kind of great dog, a huge beast. Not specifically, not a wolf. A guard dog?
Okay. I was gonna say probably not a golden retriever.
No, this is like a huge. Yeah. Specifically, in our terms, there'd be a different name for it. Obviously,
Right.
this is like an Irish wolfhound,
Okay. Yeah.
a sort of muscular dog, but of a massive scale.
Hmm.
In the real world, these dogs can be quite tall. This is even a step further. This
Okay.
is this is a wolfhound the size of a dire wolf. But as this sort of image floats through your mind and through your spirit, you feel like your senses are growing more acute. And for some reason, this sense of a hound reminds you of a dark-haired man that you recently saw in a vision. But you feel your own sense of smell sort of growing and becoming more acute. And this sense of Lou as you search for him, it's like you catch the edge of his scent. and I'm having to make the really strange decision of what what does Lou smell like?
What does Lou smell like? Probably tobacco of some sort. Only, an older herb. Tobacco would be, oh no. Leather or parchment. Alcohol, but not like soured
Mhm.
alcohol. Not like how the bar smells on at the end of a Saturday night. Um,
So you smell these things that you associated with Lou, the person that you knew,
mhm.
and you start to catch other scents, things that seem to be interwoven with it. You smell horses. You smell hounds. You smell the faintest hint of perhaps blood or even death. Go ahead. I might have rolled and I didn't look. Um, Go ahead and roll a survival check for me.
21.
In this first moment of connection, you learn several important things. Lou is most definitely alive. You catch part of his scent on the air, but in a sort of ephemeral way, as if he is both somewhere nearby, but also almost as if the scent is blown in from some distant place. There is a strange both and to it. As you focus on this, I think we pull back a little from Lexi's perspective. This sort of internal world that's become illuminated with these lines of scent and image and metaphor. And we pull back and we see Lexi sitting in her office in Lou's. What position would Lexi be sort of meditating in?
Probably sitting on the floor, crisscross applesauce. She's not gonna straight up do Lotus. But she's sitting on the floor. She might have her back like up against the wall, relaxed.
As you have been focusing on this task, your your little booze hound, uh, Bridgie,
Breach. Breach.
Breach, yeah, has sort of crawled in your lap, and is glowing. Um, if you were present, you would hear as Woody and Craig knock on the door, trying to get your attention for something. And after they knock for a moment, they become alarmed and they open the door. the light in this room, all the other sources of light, almost seem to have been dimmed until the room is completely enveloped in shadow, except where Lexi is sitting, lit up like the white flame at the edge of an impossibly hot candle. This sort of teardrop shape of fire billowing up around you. More urgently for them, in the shadows of this room, somehow the light that you're casting makes the shadow darker instead of dispelling it. And within that darkness, they'll tell you later, they see, they hear, and they smell massive hounds padding back and forth through the dark, almost as if they are watching over you. When they open the door, there are two low, deep growls, seeming to come from this empty darkness. And for just a moment, there is the hint of glowing eyes in the dark, set above massive canine muzzles. Craig and Woody are frozen with fear, and Craig overcomes it just enough to like gently push the door closed and walk away. And that's where we'll end for tonight.
Okay.
You all have started to lay the groundwork for all sorts of moves, and we will be back next week. We'll give you all some more info on the mechanics for this summoning, so you all can kind of fine tune the ritual to your preferred level of ease and danger.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and kill the recording.
Recording stopped.
And cut off the stream. Bye,
Okay.
Internet.